Hey everyone, Kevin here. Just wanted to wish you all a happy new year. 2020 was definitely a tough year in a lot of ways, and we're hoping 2021 will be a much better. And looking ahead to 2021, a few days ago I put together a video talking about some of the top IPOs coming out early in the year. And those companies, while maybe not the biggest ones out there, are ones that are further along in the process, whether they have filed a public IPO or filed their IPO confidentially at this point. So there's a lot of bigger companies out there that we're waiting to see and hear from, but those were the 7 that I had that were a little bit further along the process. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it for you, so definitely check it out if you haven't seen that one first. But today's video sort of comes up as a response to that. So after that video came out and you guys had a chance to comment, and I love having these discussions with you guys in the comments. I had a nice, good, thorough comment from Munish, and again, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Munish, but really left a good comment discussing, their personal thoughts on what they thought of the 7 IPOs. And I thought, well, this would make a good opportunity for me to give my own thoughts, because in that video, I really give more of the details of what we know about it, but I try to be really careful about telling you what's facts and news and versus my opinion. This video will be pretty much all my opinion. So again, if you haven't seen the first video, you might want to check that one out first. And again, I'll link it for you in the description. But this video is just my own personal thoughts, so this is not a recommendation for you to take or not take any action based on the companies that I talk about. As you know, I always recommend that you should always do your own research or consult with your own financial advisor before making any investment decisions. So let's go through these 7 companies and I'll just give you my own thoughts with them. And as always, I want to hear what you guys think of in the comments, whether you agree or disagree. I always say, in the comments, I can definitely deal with disagreement. I just want, when we're talking amongst each other in the comments, I just really want there to be respect to everybody that's commenting in there, because we have a pretty cool community and I want to keep it that way. So let's start off with probably the most familiar name in the list, and that's Petco. Petco for me is a no. Again, does not mean it's a bad company or anything like that, but for what I'm looking for, it just doesn't meet my criteria. One of the things that I don't like about Petco, and again, this is not directly related to them, it's just that there's a lot of competition in that market. So you think about purely, pet supplies, pet foods, things like that. You have PetSmart out there, you have grocery stores out there, you have Walmarts and Targets of the world, you have online with Amazon. You have so many different options to get that's a competitor. So again, that keeps margins down on what they can sell things for. Now they are talking about expanding some of their veterinary services, which again I think is an opportunity there. But at the end of the day, their bread and butter has been in those pet supplies. And again, I just really feel like that's something that keeps me not really interested into the company. The other thing is they have a huge debt load. It's about $3 billion. And some of this IPO is going to be paying on that off. And I always like an IPO when the money's going towards growing the business, and it's not that they're not going to use some of it to grow to it or give them more flexibility. But at the end of the day, this to me just seems like a way to help pay off some of the debt that the company has. So for me, again, no. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. So the second one I have on the list is Poshmark. And Poshmark is a company, it's not that I don't like, but again, they have that competition factor that does concern me a little bit. So when you think of some of their competition online, selling secondhand goods, you can always go back to eBay as that primary company that did that. So one of the concerns I have with Poshmark is that they charge some fees that are a little bit higher when you look at some of their competitors like eBay. So the question is, will people continue to sell things on Poshmark versus a cheaper option? And let's say that they choose to sell it both places. At the end of the day though, when you're charged higher fees to list it, you're going to probably charge a higher overall fee to get paid. So like if someone is a buyer, they're looking for the cheapest price. So it's pretty simple. And if you're listing an item, you can list it for a lower price, which is going to be more likely to sell on a site that actually gives you a lower listing fee. And so if Poshmark is higher, the odds are that a seller might choose to use another option, or if they do use Poshmark, they're going to charge more because they need to maintain that margin for their profit. So now what Poshmark can do is they can really emphasize their branding. Right now we do know, and we talked about this in the video, is that their demographic tends to be younger and it tends to be female. And so if you're focusing on more of that demographic and they continue to grow that social aspect that we talked about in that last video, then they do have the opportunity to be more competitive in that way. So again, if you have eBay that sells everything on there, but you have a more of a focused marketplace on Poshmark, there is a chance that people might go to Poshmark first because they might feel it's a little bit easier to find what they're looking for. So anyways, that's one of the things. That social aspect I think makes them a little bit intriguing. Some other pluses for Poshmark is that they are growing their revenue year over year, and they are in an market that's expanding. So those are positives. So for me, Poshmark I don't have them as a no. They're probably more of a maybe at the right price. But at the end of the day, it's probably not a company I'm typically looking into because, again, of the competition factor. So that's Poshmark. So the next one I have on the list is Bumble. As we talked about in the last video, they're number 2 in the market when it comes to apps. They're right behind Tinder. And there are some things to like with Bumble. Again, like Poshmark, they tend to focus on the female users, and that is something that if you can be the first choice of a demographic, that's important. Now with Bumble, they just at this point have filed confidentially, so we haven't seen a public filing yet. So that makes it a little harder for me to make a decision one way or the other. But what I will say about Bumble is, the thing is they are going against the behemoth in Match. And I will tell you up front, and I've said this on some of the live streams before, is that I do own stock in Match. And one of the reasons why I own stock in Match is because up until now, they've sort of owned that market. It's not that there's not competitors out there, but when you think of the big names that people use, like the Match.coms, the Tinder, the OkCupid, the Plenty of Fish, those are all owned by Match. So when you have another competitor come in there, they're really going uphill. So that doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity for them. It just means that there's an uphill battle for them to continue to grow and fight them. Now, one of the things I will tell you is somebody that holds Match, this sort of is what I'm going to watch for holding Match, because depending on the competition, it's something that is one of the biggest reasons why I own Match. And so if I see more competition, we saw with Facebook, they had come out before, over a year ago, I guess now, talking about how they were going to do more of the dating, have more of a dating option. That is not something that's really impacted Match. And it wasn't something I really worried with Facebook. Because of sort of what the brand of Facebook is, you don't really think dating. Well, at least I don't. Now with Bumble, that's obviously what they do. In fact, the person that founded them, was part of Tinder at one point. So I have a little bit of concerns from a Match perspective. But at the end of the day, I think Bumble has an uphill battle. Now, one of the things that could happen, perhaps, I don't know, there's been a lot of issues between the companies before, but could Bumble actually be a company that Match might decide to acquire to continue to hold that stronghold in the industry? So lots of factors to think there. My first thought on Bumble, again, without having a public filing, and just based on those the competition factor with Match, I would say that it's a maybe for me, but again, it has to be at the right price. If it's coming out really high multiples, I'm not going to be interested, because again, it does not meet my criteria of really having that wide moat around it. So that's Bumble. The next company I have on the list is Affirm. Affirm is a company that, let me start off by saying, I'm intrigued because of Max Levchin's involved. And as we've talked about in the previous video, he was one of the early people with PayPal. And we know how successful a lot of the people that have since left PayPal have went on to start big and good companies as well. So that's intriguing. Now, where I am with Affirm is that at 93% of year-over-year growth, I'm intrigued. But the issue that I have with Affirm is their model of what they're trying to do, which one of the things I think about is, do they have a product or a service that I'm going to use personally? Or is it a service or a product that, while I may not use, but I can see the benefit of using it? And so with Affirm, they have a product that I would not use. This is that buy now, pay later approach. And again, as somebody that, when it thinks about buying something, I buy it with cash, or I use a credit card, but I pay it off at the end of the month. And so there's never a point where I'm going to pay a finance or interest charge on it. And so when I look at Affirm, and that's what their business is, and obviously there's a market for there. And so I can't discount them, because I know that in reality people use that. One of the concerns I have with Affirm going forward could be a potential regulatory risk. So one of the things is they sort of come across as a payday lender, which could open themselves up to some scrutiny or some regulations in the future. So while I don't really see that being immediate, and I'm not sure that that they were anywhere on the radar at this point. But that is something that's going to be important when you talk about the margins that they can charge with their interests and stuff. And so that sort of makes me a little hesitant on the company. And then another thing, and this came from the filing itself, is that 28% of the revenue came from Peloton. And so you have a few things there that make me worry. Number one, again, a product that I don't really see the personal use or value of. I do see that, I do acknowledge that many people do use that, and so I don't discount them for that. Again, that potential scrutiny from with the business that they do. And then the third thing being, again, a lot of that customer concentration. So got to spread that out a little bit. At the end of the day, I'm not against Affirm, but I don't have them in that top tier where I think that's a must-have stock for me to have. It's probably, again, another stock that falls into the Bumbles and the Poshmarks of the world, for me at least, where I want to see, at a good price, I would definitely consider it, but not going to pay a premium for that company. All right, so that's 4 companies. We have 3 to go. As we're hitting that sort of that halfway point, I would like to ask you to please push that like button. It really helps me with YouTube and the algorithm to really try to help push the video out so more people get it. Again, my focus is really on you guys that's watching. It helps me know that when I do different types of videos, that when I can tell by more likes, you tend to get more videos like that. So if you enjoy more of an analysis type of video versus where I give you mostly the facts, and as you guys know, I try to tell you exactly if it's actual information or if it's my own opinion, because I'm not here to push you on making decisions one way or the other. I just want you guys to make the best move for yourself. So if you're liking a video where you can say, well, I wonder what Kevin's thoughts are on these companies, give it a like. And if you're new here and you've never been to the channel or watched any of our videos, or maybe you've watched 1 or 2 and you just never thought about subscribing, well, just would like to ask you to subscribe. It's free. All you gotta do is push that little red subscribe button, and you're part of the community. And again, it's a good way to stay up on all the companies that come out each week when we do IPO this week. So we'd definitely love to have you join the community. All right, so moving on, we have 3 more companies. The next one that I'm going to talk about is Coinbase. Coinbase is something I've been very open with on the videos. We talked about them. I've talked about them in 2 other videos, I think, so far, and in the comments. And it's really where I've never invested in Bitcoin or any crypto, and it's not something I feel like I know a lot about at this point. So that's for me to do some more learning for myself on that. But what I will say is, looking at Coinbase, so as of right now, I don't have that public filing, which to me always sort of shies me away before making any definitive decisions, because I really want to see what they're saying. I want to get a better idea of their business model. But some initial thoughts on Coinbase. Right now, as you guys know, we watch what Bitcoin's doing. I mean, it's insane. And again, you don't have to understand to know that the numbers are going up huge, the value. But what I do know is that a company like Coinbase, though, it really doesn't, at the end of the day, completely depend on the value of Bitcoin. Of course, the interest in it will drive people to companies such as Coinbase, but at the end of the day, what Coinbase just needs is that people to be interested in Bitcoin or any types of crypto. They make a lot of their money from the fees they charge on the transactions, and then aside from the fees, they actually make a lot of the money just from helping their customers store some of the crypto. So again, for me, I don't know enough about Bitcoin, and I'm going to learn more. And again, as I get that public filing, that'll make me have a better idea with Coinbase. And again, as I learn that more about Bitcoin and crypto on its own. But what I do know is, or at least my initial thoughts are, is if a company makes money regardless of what the value of Bitcoin is or any crypto, but it becomes a mainstream type of investment. And again, I don't think that's going away, barring a huge bubble bursting. And that's not to say it couldn't happen. But again, to me, it just seems that this company needs people to be interested in it. And as long as they're willing to own it, where they can charge people to store it, or as long as people are continually interested in buying or selling, so they can make those fees, to me, it seems like it's a pretty solid model. In crypto, I think, I can tell you if I'm not interested, there's probably a lot of people that are investors that aren't. That will probably continue to expand. So I think they have that opportunity. So I like Coinbase. I don't have it as a must-have, but it's a very intriguing company to me, and it's one that I would lean to be more of a yes on. Obviously, with my biggest qualifier always is what's the price that you can get it for. Again, don't even know what that would be without having the access to a public filing right now. So Coinbase number 5, have them as leaning towards a yes, need a little bit more information. All right, so the 6th one is probably what I would say is the most intriguing company on the list for me, and that's UiPath. And when I say the most intriguing, I also probably think about the one that has the most upside, at least from what I feel for the company from an investment perspective. And again, just because we know that so many people that invest in the market tend to look at technology, and we do know that IPO tech stocks tend to do pretty well. And when you throw in those 2 little letters, AI or artificial intelligence, gets a lot of interest. And so I just feel like this company has a lot going for it, and from an investment perspective. Now, as far as what they do and their information, again, this is another company with only confidential filing, so I don't know those numbers. I don't have a great sense of their business model right now. So I can't put them as a must-have for me, but it's one that once I get that filing and I don't see any major red flags, is probably going to be a must-have. And again, probably of all the companies on the list, might be the one that I feel, and again, just personally, but probably one that I would feel would be the company that has the potential highest upside from an investment perspective. And then maybe 10 years down the road, looking back at that and say, wow, that's a company that we're going to do. But again, I just feel like I need to have a better idea of what they do. I need to get a better sense of their competition, because there is a lot of focus in AI right now. And and again, we talked a little bit more specifically what UiPath does in the last video. But besides from that, again, from a purely investment in the stock perspective, I just think that UiPath is one that I'm very interested in. And again, until they get the filing, I won't say it's a yes, but I have it pretty much up there. And then the last one I have is the one I would say, barring any super high prices, which I would not count out, would be Roblox. Roblox to me is the one that is the safest pick for me to say that this company is going to do well. And I can start off by saying that, number one, we saw a public filing. So I saw some of the information. We saw the data on their average daily users, and we saw how much that improved over the pandemic. And the question will be, do we think that those numbers will go away as the pandemic starts to subside? And I feel like there will probably be less people or less time on the platform, but I don't see this as a product that people are going to get away from. And as probably a lot of you, even on watching this video, know that when you get into gaming, it can be pretty addicting. And that alone tells me that this is probably a company that's going to maintain some of that growth. Again, maybe not all, but we do know that with Roblox, there's some growth strategies. And again, I was starting to put together a comprehensive video on them, and I still plan to do that. But until they delayed their IPO, as you guys remember, we were expecting them before the end of the year. As we get more clarity of when that IPO will happen, I will still work on that. So there's more information coming from Roblox for me on that one. But I just think on the surface of what we know from the public filing, what I know about the industry, it's a platform that has so many developers and creators on it, millions, that it's not going to be a platform that tends to get stodgy or stale. There's always going to be something new coming out. That can be a little overwhelming for a user, but there's a lot of options, but that also makes it intriguing as well. So I think when you look at Roblox, they have the growth, they have the industry, and there's been a lot of interest, I can tell you from the other videos when we've talked about them at all, from them. So I just really feel like this company will do well. At the end of the day, what will it trade for? Does it make sense from a valuation perspective? I can't speak for that. But of all the companies, I think that from information we have right now, I have Roblox at the top of the list. So anyways, that's the 7 companies we talked about. As I said, there's a lot more companies coming. There's more that I can talk about, but these were the ones, again, that were the closest or a little bit further along in the process. And with those other ones coming, and again, as I have maybe a little bit more clarity, or even if I don't, maybe I'll do another video talking about some of those ones coming. So if you're interested in hearing more about companies that are not officially coming out, but you want to be ready for them, another reason to like the video, it just helps me know that you really are interested in these type of preview type of videos. So anyway, so you got my list. I have Roblox at the top. I have Petco as a no. Everywhere in between is a little bit of maybe, just needed a little bit more information or depends on the price. So what do you guys think with my list? Do you agree, disagree, or just tell me what's your favorite company of the bunch? Let me know in the comments. I'm really interested always hearing what you guys have to say. So as we're getting past the holidays, I have a lot more ideas on videos, some future live streams, and obviously we'll get back to the traditional IPOs this week as we start getting those companies coming out again, and that'll be happening sooner than later. So again, if you're interested in all the companies going public and you want to keep up to date on what's going on with them, definitely subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you join the community. It's a really cool place to really discuss all of our thoughts on IPOs. And so with that, I'm going to wrap it here for now. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, have a great day.